A child in Gaza hasn't eaten in 3 days.
A grandmother in Lebanon is sleeping in the rubble of what used to be her kitchen. A mother in Iran doesn't know if tomorrow is going to bring bombs or bread. You see, these aren't just statistics on a screen. These are human beings.
Welcome to This Explainer. I'm your host, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Usually when we look at the Middle East crisis, the news coverage tells you what happened, right? The missiles, the press conferences, those maps with the big red arrows. But almost none of it tells you what it actually feels like on the ground. So today, we're stepping away from that sanitized geopolitical chessboard. We're going to examine the true human reality that's getting crushed beneath the gears of war. Let's really uncover what's going on.
Section 1. The Illusion of Strategy. Geopolitics versus Reality.
In modern coverage, we constantly hear these abstract terms, don't we? States, armies, borders, calculated escalation. Analysts absolutely love to throw around the phrase strategic leverage, but let's strip away that sanitized military terminology for a second. Strategic leverage is just a political advantage, and it's almost always paid for by the sheer survival struggles of civilians. It is the stark, unbelievable contrast between a diplomat negotiating in a quiet, air-conditioned room and a father in southern Lebanon literally digging through concrete with his bare hands, desperately searching for what was once his son.
Which brings us to Section 2, the game of the powerful, measuring the human cost.
We really need to be honest with ourselves about how the objectives of the people in power fundamentally clash with the needs of everyday people. It's like they're speaking completely different languages. Think about it. A military commander is seeking a tactical victory. A politician, they want a strategic advantage. A diplomat is looking for regional leverage. But for the ordinary civilian, the family in Gaza, the merchant in Jordan, the refugee in a camp, their only objective, their only measure of success is literally just waking up tomorrow. Military victory and human victory, they're not always the same thing.
Take the number 6. This isn't just a number. This represents 6 real people. 6 Red Cross workers who were killed in March and April of this year alone. They weren't combatants. They were simply trying to deliver humanitarian aid in rapidly deteriorating conditions.
And that forces us to ask an incredibly uncomfortable question. Every single government involved speaks about security. Every government claims necessity, and eventually many of them will claim some form of success. But if everyone claims success, why are children still dying in shelters? Seriously, take a moment to weigh the absolute absurdity of political leaders claiming victory when the reality on the ground is widespread civilian slaughter.
Section 3. The reality on the ground, Gaza and Lebanon.
Let's start with Lebanon. The statistics here are just staggering, but we have to remember the human faces behind them. Right now, 1 in 5 people here are displaced. Think about that. A country that already survived a banking collapse and a devastating port explosion is being completely uprooted again. And 1/3 of those displaced? They're children. We're talking about entire neighborhoods with histories dating back thousands of years, facing sudden evacuation orders. That means families are frantically packing whatever they can physically fit into a car or on the back of a motorcycle at 3 in the morning to flee renewed bombardment. They're losing homes they spent decades building practically overnight.
And then we look at Gaza. To quote, Gaza is a graveyard that used to be a neighborhood. It is an exhausting daily battle for basic dignity. For over 2 million residents, there are no day-after committees that matter right now. There is only the compounding trauma of living amidst rubble. They're fighting just to find clean water, basic health care, and a sense of safety that honestly hasn't existed in years. Children born into this reality will grow up knowing absolutely nothing but sirens and displacement.
Let's move to Section 4, the invisible human suffering, economics and sanctions in Iran and Syria.
The reality of war doesn't just stay where the bombs fall. It travels. Take the Strait of Hormuz, for example. 20% of global oil flows right through there. When military strategy dictates the flow of this oil, it dictates the stability of global energy markets. Wars affect fuel prices, and fuel prices affect inflation. It's a massive ripple effect.
So how does this so-called leverage actually travel? Well, globally, it means a truck driver in Germany ends up paying more for diesel. But locally, the true human cost means a cancer patient in Shiraz, Iran, waits much longer for imported drugs because of severe sanctions. Ordinary Iranian citizens, we're talking about a nation of over 80 million people, are left wondering if diplomacy or escalation will decide the price of their life-saving medicine tomorrow.
And we absolutely cannot forget Syria. 14 years of war, the largest refugee crisis in human history. We are now looking at an entire generation of Syrian children born in exile. They're scattered across borders, and many have never even seen the streets their own parents grew up on. This is what war actually produces: broken futures and a profound, heartbreaking loss of community.
Section 5. The world rejects war, the universal language of survival.
A safe home, a stable future, food, clean water, medicine, and the chance to live in peace. The vast majority of human beings on this planet, completely regardless of nationality or religion or borders, want exactly these things. The farmer in Iowa, the teacher in Tehran, the shopkeeper in Tel Aviv, the mother in Gaza. None of them ordered an airstrike. None of them sat down and drafted a military strategy. War is a decision made by a very small number of people, for reasons that usually have absolutely nothing to do with the ordinary people who are forced to carry the consequences.
Because as we know, history teaches a really difficult lesson. Many wars produce tactical winners. Far fewer produce human winners. When military goals destroy entire communities from the ground up, the very concept of victory just completely loses its meaning.
Section 6. The final human cost: judging the future.
We really have to dismantle this cold calculus of geopolitics. Just watch how quickly political strategy translates into human tragedy. On day 1, strategies are drafted on paper. By month 1, the sanctions and strikes initiate. Fast forward to year 1, and millions are traumatized and displaced. And by year 10, an entire generation has been raised in rubble. Wars are measured in stolen time, taken from people who never even fired a weapon.
And this all brings us to a fundamental moral absolute. Killing civilians is wrong. Always. International law wasn't written as a mere suggestion, you know? It was established in the aftermath of horrific global conflict specifically to prevent the powerful from abandoning their basic humanity. A child is never a combatant. A hospital is never a justifiable target. We must remember the ultimate value of civilian life over any geopolitical strategy.
So I want to leave you with this thought today. If every side achieves its military objectives, but millions of ordinary people emerge poorer, traumatized, displaced, or dead, who actually won? The headlines are going to change and the maps will definitely change. But the value of a human life? That doesn't. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the hard questions,